Thank you everyone for joining us on the Brown Dad today. This episode is filled with some very interesting personality. Elvan Rehman. Elvan Rehman, actually, I should say, is more properly pronounced your name, right?
Yeah.
He's a marketing manager, an advertising consultant, a brown dad, and a musician. Elvan, tell our viewers something about yourself.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Thank you for the introduction. I am, what should I say? I'm an aspiring father right now. I am new to Canada and looking for work. And I think the pandemic has kind of led all us brown dads into this area or sphere where we have become, the maternal figure for the most part of it.
Right.
And so I think that's basically it in a nutshell right now.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, Elvan, please tell our viewers, like, you were obviously not born and raised here, right? So where were you born and raised, if you don't mind sharing that with our viewers?
Yeah, no, I was born in Pakistan, in a place in a city called Karachi, and I was there till the age of 27,
Wow.
26, 27.
And
And
then you moved,
current,
you're now
uh,
27.
now I'm 40. Now I'm 40, but then I moved out at that age. I went to the Middle East,
Right.
and I spent a lot of time in the Middle East. And I think all the way from 2007 till 2019, I was between Saudi Arabia and Dubai. So I came to Canada in 2019.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, it's definitely been quite a journey, right? Going from one country to another country, the societal norms, cultural changes, everything else, and then coming here, which is completely different.
Completely different, yeah, absolutely.
What was your growing up like? Like, obviously, that being growing up in a different country, what was that experience like?
So I've had two childhoods. One I survived, and one was amazing. So I've had a turbulent childhood with my parents and their dynamic, and how broken families are, right? You just
Right.
kind of survive them as you go along.
This is
However,
your biological family, is it?
this is my biological family,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
However, the flip side was amazing because I just grew up with. I lived in a compound, and I grew up with these friends I made who are friends to this day.
Right.
And that was, my escape, and it was amazing.
Right.
I had a great childhood, a lot of adventure, a lot of exploration, a lot of fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite interesting, right? Because obviously those childhood experiences do change the way it is that you form and see the world around you, and having those different sources of inspiration is definitely something. So switching gears up a bit back to your childhood with that parenting style, the biological parent that you had, what was your parenting style, and what how did that play out for you?
So my father, he was in the airlines, and he was traveled quite a lot. And then obviously after the separation, he wasn't really around so much, and
Right.
I was, bouncing around from one family to another
Right.
until he remarried. But I think on the whole, his parenting style was very, because he himself was an adventurous soul.
Right.
Uh, so it was everything was about athletics and exploring the outdoors and music, and he was into music a lot,
Right.
and the arts as well.
Right.
So I think he had a very free parenting style, but a very, I think, very strict when it came to academic excellence. So
Right.
if you didn't make the cut his mark, it was like, oh. Here comes the shoe. Here comes the shoe. I've had many a boot thrown at me a few times.
You must have
Only,
a boot collection, just 1 foot boot collection, right?
yeah, I used to hate it. But having said that, after that, he'd realize and be like, "What have I done?" And then it would be, "Oh, I love you," and all that. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I get it now. I get it. I wouldn't do that though.
Definitely changes the way you perceive how it is to be a father, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We'll get into that in just a moment. But then, obviously, you mentioned that you had then another father figure, your real dad, right? And
Yeah.
would you mind sharing with our viewers what it is that your real dad did?
Sorry, this was my real father actually.
Okay.
And
Oh, sorry.
so
Okay.
yeah, this was my real father.
Great.
But then he passed away when I was 14.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, and then I had to transition to my real mother.
Hmm.
And then I had a stepdad, and he was an amazing person. All my fears that were instilled in me,
Right.
um, it happens, family poisoning happens, but all my fears that were instilled in me,
Right.
they just vanished because he was an amazing person. Um, and I think what I learned from my stepfather was how to be compassionate, generous, kind, and giving, um,
Amazing.
and accepting. Because he just accepted me, so I was like completely indebted to him. Actually,
That's amazing.
he's
That's
not around. I lost him when I was 22.
oh,
But that's part of the reason why I have a really good bond with his children, because yeah.
great. A lot of stepbrothers, stepsisters, right? An expanded family then, right? Makes
Yeah,
makes nice, yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
So then how does that impact you as a dad? Like what with all those, myriad of experiences that you've had, growing up and having these different sort of things that you've done over the years, how does that affect your day to day and your interaction with your child? Do you mind actually sharing with our viewers first how many children it is that you have? I don't think we actually.
No, I don't know. I've got one boy. He's now 4 years old.
Very
um,
nice.
yeah, and in terms of the first part of your question, how has all the past shaped me to be what I am now?
Hmm.
So it's a good question, because I remember when I was a kid, or even not kid, just growing up, I used to make these mental notes, and I don't know if people do that or if people talk about it so much, but I used to make mental notes that this is not how I should have been treated in that moment, or this is not how you should respond to your kid. So I made those mental notes along the way, and as I grew up, I just kind of formed my own, that okay, these are the good things that they have got, both my parents,
Right.
fathers, fathers, and these are the negative things, and I kind of like mitigated all the negative things in my own journey with my child.
Right. Right.
And I've taken the positives and I've just kind of amplified them. And then obviously on top of these two, there's this layer of your own life experience and your own, I would
Right.
say,
Right.
awareness. Yeah.
Right.
So
And
you
your
kind
own
of
personal growth, right?
yeah. And now I've got, so that's how I've kind of formed into the father I am right now, and I continue to form that way.
Very nice. Very nice. That's very insightful. Very insightful. And again, from a job profile perspective, we were talking again about the fact that right now you're new to the country and currently you're unemployed and looking for work.
Yeah,
What were you doing? You were previously a marketing manager, advertising consultant, right?
absolutely. Yes.
Right. And how many years have you been doing that, if you don't mind us asking?
So scholastically, I'm trained um, in marketing and business. So I did my MBA in 2006,
Wow.
and
Okay.
and after that, it's just been in this. I've been in the field. So we're looking at 12 years.
Wow.
12,
Wow.
12 years,
Very
yeah.
long time.
I had a
It's
very
definitely it's definitely a challenge when you are moving to a new country to reestablish yourself, especially to a country where experiences sometimes your past experiences are not really counted for. They're looking more for experiences in this country itself.
within Canada. Yeah, that's true. And then you layer on the pandemic of that. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it's
And
just
and you were sharing with me earlier, if you don't mind sharing with our viewers that experience, right? With the pandemic obviously hitting you and how that actually impacted and changed your life as a dad as well, if you don't mind sharing with our viewers.
oh yeah, tremendously actually.
Yeah.
Because it's a good question, because growing up in Pakistan and then living in the Middle East as well, there's always this, there are traditional roles, that your spouses play out.
Correct.
The man does the man thing, the woman does the woman thing.
Mm.
um and and I think, even so, all of that, well, I think you kind of take, or you absorb as you're growing up, and as you get older, you just become that, the environments that you're in.
Right.
So coming to Canada was, I had the same mindset where I was like, okay, I'm gonna be the bread earner, and yeah, I'm gonna land here full of confidence. It's gonna be easy for me to get a job, and
Right.
it won't be that tough. But life throws curveballs, and my wife was the first one to get a job
Right.
and do exceptionally well as well.
Right.
And that was great. But as a result, what happened is I fell into the role of a caretaker, right?
Right.
And so I've had to unlearn everything over the last, I would say, 39 years.
Right. Right.
And it's not easy. Yeah,
It's
39 years of
definitely
unlearning.
not easy. Definitely not easy.
Yeah, I mean, one can say, yeah, we can do it, we're willing, but when it comes to actually doing it, to actually being a father and a mother at the same time, probably more so a mother,
Yeah.
um, it's not easy. It's you just have to. I don't even know where where to start.
It's a work in progress. Let's leave it at that, right?
It's a work in progress. Yes, it's a work in progress.
It comes down to actually our entire platform of patriarchy to partnership. And that's kind of the narrative that we've changed
Yeah,
over time through these interviews and these conversations with dads. Because what we are obviously showcasing is dads that are heavily involved with their children, and they're proud to be dads. There's the gender roles that each one of play. Then there's the societal pressures of what it is. Then there's the personal limitations of what it is that we can do, and then there's the child's acceptance of what it is that they want to interact with you. Because you'll find like your child
yeah,
doesn't necessarily want to interact with you as much as they want to interact with their mom, right? Because that interaction at different times of the day is different.
yeah.
So I mean, with all those things in place, it still doesn't discount the fact that we can be great dads, and we can love what we're doing, and make these
Absolutely.
amazing human beings for the world around us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I
It's
mean,
really
one one
awesome.
one thing that I've noticed, when you just said that, I picked up on something, which is in terms of interactions. Like I have a son, right? So my
Yeah.
son, even though, so what I've noticed is that he's 4 years old now.
Right.
So in the last 2 years, he was highly dependent on love and affection coming from me,
Right.
um, because I slipped into that role, right?
Right.
But I see a change now where it's more like I want to do all the outdoorsy stuff with daddy, and all the playing with things, and
Yeah.
just the interaction with the world. But the emotional support is now changing, and he wants mommy back, and he wants mommy back with a vengeance. So yeah,
Yeah, no, it's definitely a learning process, as you said. Like you being that emotional support, and him being in that space where he was, that's all he knew and he wanted it. Now him transitioning, obviously, it's not only a transition for him, but it's a transition for you as well, because
yeah,
you're trying to find your place to say, okay, so what do I do while he's playing with mommy, right? Like
yeah.
it's
I've got to let go. I've got to let go of stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Even now, I'm like, oh my god, what about this or what about that? I'm like, oh no, just calm down, relax. It'll be let go of some things.
Yeah, no,
So
definitely a
yeah,
challenge. So then, if you don't mind sharing with our viewers, what type of dad do you aspire to be?
a heroic one.
Definitely, I think every dad does, right?
Yeah,
And what
no,
does
every
that?
man does. But
Yeah,
what does it mean? Um, I think I want him. Honestly, what I would consider a success is if I have prepared my son uh, to be ready for the world, and to be someone who can take up challenges, face the challenges that will be thrown at him, and at the same time balance it out with just being a good person. I
right,
think if he can do these basics, um, he's good.
right.
Yeah,
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I think that's important, right? Being productive members of society is what elevates how it is that we can be better at what we do. Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
What then do you see the ideal brown dad as?
Yeah, the ideal brown dad. Oh, you guys have got to shed all of that skin. You got to shed the old, throw away old maxims. The ideal brown dad is one who I think should really truly appreciate the role of the mother, the role of the wife, the role of the housekeeper and the house caretaker. It is phenomenal. It is the hardest job in the world and the most rewarding at the same time.
Yes.
Um, and the ideal brown dad is someone who really needs to be, if you're into that, if you're coming into that space or stepping in or already in it, be patient, and just be willing to learn, um, and accept what's coming your way. No,
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Great,
yeah,
great piece of advice for the dads, right? The learning, the patience, those are key and golden to making that entire experience of everything that we call life well worth living,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah. So then moving back to what we were talking about, that experience of having these different perspectives, and then that forming you to being who you are today with your experience with your child and your experience with your spouse and all these different things. Do you have any words of wisdom for our viewers? Something that you'd like to leave them to think about?
It's a tough one, with all that experience, and I think just don't stop trying and don't stop learning, um, how to be a good parent.
Right,
It's ever so evolving, um, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. You will, and it's very difficult to say don't beat yourself up when things don't go according to plan.
right,
But that's okay.
right,
It's okay. It's okay.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
right.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
No, definitely, definitely. No, I think that was great. You've been very candid with your talks, and you shared beautiful pieces of advice, and you took on this beautiful journey, explaining to us what it is and what some of the challenges are that children face, obviously growing up, sort of in a separated home, and having that challenge, and then coming up above from it and rising from there, and being able to create something so beautiful and so meaningful with what it
Yeah.
is, and not being afraid to challenge yourself and grow, from that space. So I definitely do have to commend you on that entire experience, and taking our and giving our viewers that chance to
Yeah.
experience this, right? So definitely.
Yeah.
Alvan, I think that is kind of wrapping us to the end of our interview. I know we did kind of shorten it a bit, and we've had some beautiful conversations. I look forward to bring up more pieces of some of these snippets in our future conversations, and I look forward to maybe bringing you on when you're gainfully employed in some of the other conversations we were talking about as well.
That would
Just
be interesting. Yeah.
yeah, just to kind of
Yeah.
show our viewers that transition, but even more importantly, the fact that you're now a stay-at-home dad, full-time caregiver to your 4 year old is just
Yeah.
commendable. It's just something that we want to show that dads can also do, right? So it's not beyond a reproach. That patriarchy to partnership space is something that we're very, very, very desperately pushing. So that's where we are. So once again,
Absolutely.
Elvan,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being on the Brown Dad. We are tremendously honored to have you today. Any last
Not at
words for
all.
our
Thank you so
viewers?
much.
Any last words for our viewers?
um, Not really. Nothing on. I can't get anything on the spot, but just yeah, I just keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, that's important. That's important.
Keep going, because it's this time is it depends on how old your children are, but it's going to pass in a blink of an eye, and
Yeah,
when you look back, you'll be like, just make sure it's worth it.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, definitely. Great, great words of advice. And with that, I bid our viewers adieu. Have a wonderful day from the Brown Dad, myself, Rana Gracias, and also known as the Magic Dad. Have a great day, guys. Take care.